Hello, I just bought these HDZero BoxPro goggles. Well, they just arrived today, and I'm in the process of getting everything out of the box and figuring out what it's all about. So I thought I might turn my camera on and give you some of my impressions as I go through all of this. So it's taken me quite a long time to get into any kind of digital FPV, and the main reason is that it costs so much. When I first saw all this stuff coming out a few years ago and I realized that I couldn't afford it, I basically just completely ignored any and all information about it. So it's taken me a couple of months actually, because I still don't have a whole lot of money. So I wanted to put a lot of research into figuring out what would be the best thing for me to get. And I had a lot of catching up to do, and I'll just shout out a couple of channels that helped me a lot with this, because I had a lot to learn and I found myself always going back to those two channels. One is Mads RC and the other is Bonafide Pirate. I'll put a link to those in the description below if you want to learn some things like I did. I'd be a little surprised if a lot of my viewers are not already subscribed to at least one of those two channels, but anyway. So in the box here we have the goggles themselves, a couple of little antennas. Not sure if they'll be really very good for much, those ones, but we can use some different ones. Nice little soft lined pouch to carry the thing in. Some sticky with Velcro on one side, and then some soft pads to put around the faceplate. Strap to go around the back of your head. XT62 barrel jack connector, some little stickers and a little wipey cloth, and a very basic sort of instructions sheet there. Looking at the goggles themselves, they're a little bit smaller than I expected actually, and there's a fan on the top for keeping everything cool and some vents for the air to come out the sides, or in from the sides perhaps. There's a single button on this side, and then on over this side over here we have a dial up and down wheel. Is there a button in the middle? No, that's not a button, so it's just a dial here. Nothing on the front. There's a couple of antennas under there though, I think. There's a fixed sort of a lens on there. It doesn't look like you can slide that backwards and forwards like some of those older style ones that we had on our box goggles back in the day. They're fixed in place, and it looks like, even though that's a single piece of molded, I assume plastic, looks like there's actually two separate lenses in there. I can see sort of a dividing line in the middle, so there's slightly different, I guess technically two lenses, one for each eye. And then on the bottom we have the stuff that I found most interesting or most compelling, is that there's a lot of flexibility and things that you can connect to this. So just to go through these here, we have a head tracking output, headphones output, SD card for recording video, HDMI in, which is probably what I'm going to be using the most, I think. So I'm actually not really planning to use the HDZero video system with these. I'm probably going to get something else that I'll use HDMI in with from a different receiver. So I'm really hoping that the latency through this HDMI in is not too bad. And then over here we have HDMI out, AV in, on-off button, and then the power. So HDMI in and out, which is really nice. And there's also, was there like a microphone in somewhere, I think? I guess on this AV in you can record audio. I think, actually I'll have to figure this out, but I saw somebody else saying that there was a way to record audio, because I record a lot of things for YouTube, right? So one thing that I find myself doing quite a lot is flying FPV, but I have to use my hat cam microphone and turn my hat around backwards so that the camera that's on the brim of the hat is behind me, and it's a little bit quiet, so it's not ideal. But what would be nice is, pretty sure there was a microphone on here somewhere, right? Wasn't there? Did I get that wrong? Oh, well, you can plug a microphone into, I think, to this AV in anyway. I'll have to figure that out. This XT62 barrel jack connector cable is 1.1 meters long, so it's comfortably long enough to reach from your pants pocket to the goggles, which is how I'm going to be using it. And it's also quite nice and soft too, which is another thing that is nice to have in a cable like this. Actually, now that I put my glasses on, I can see that there is a little hole that looks like it might be a microphone next to the SD card. I'll have to investigate this a little bit further. And I realized that there is a button inside this dial as well. I was just holding it with one hand before, it wasn't very easy to press it, but that is a button in there too. So there's a button on this side and on the other side. The antenna connectors are, I think this is SMA, right? Where the penis is in the antenna and the vagina is in the connector itself. It's not really ideal for me because most of my antennas are the other way around, but I do have a couple that I can use on this. Apparently this left one only is the only one that's used for analog. So one reason I got these goggles is I only have analog gear at the moment, and I want a set of goggles that I can use directly with analog, which rules out some of the other ones like DJI and stuff. So that's one reason I really wanted to go with these goggles. So most of my impressions and opinions in this video are going to be coming from the point of view of comparing the new goggles with the ones that I've been using for a few years now, and that is the Fat Shark Dominator SE, I think these are called. They made an orange version of these for a while, and I have stuck a third-party receiver on there that has antenna diversity. So there's two antennas. We have a patch and a cloverleaf, and these are made by that place in Poland, prodrone.pl I think they are. Just ignore the IO mixer self-taped on there, that's for something else. And so the next couple of clips are going to be comparing that setup with this setup, which is the HDZero BoxPro and the Fat Shark antenna that originally came with those. Unfortunately, this is one of the only antennas I have that's going to fit onto the SMA rather than the RP SMA. So I'm going to have to use that one for now. Alright, let's go for a little fly here. So I was doing this yesterday. So this is not the first time I've used this, but yesterday the weather wasn't very good, and in my first flight I forgot to record the audio, and I also did not have the Fat Sharks recording at the same time, which I do at the moment. So this camera's not that great actually. I'm trying a new camera. I found a camera on Banggood for $10 so I thought I might as well try it, but it's not super great. I think I should just put the Cadex Ratel that I had on yesterday. I should put that back on. But anyway, so you can see me standing there, and just on the top of this fence post we have the Fat Shark goggles like that. And over here I'll go to my tree that obstructs the signal a little bit, this tree just on the right. Yeah, this video camera's not great, unfortunately. Anyway, when we go behind this tree we get a little bit of breakup like that. And what I've noticed is that seems to be a little bit better with these HDZero goggles than it is with the Fat Sharks, despite the Fat Sharks having diversity receiver on there with two antennas. So there's a patch antenna and a cloverleaf antenna, and on my HDZeros I just have a cloverleaf. There's only one plug. And if we go over here also, there's a little bit of breakup behind this row of trees, like about here. So this is a typical spot where I lose video even though I'm not too far away, like about here. So I just wanted to compare that. And the sun's come out just as I started flying, which is quite nice. Yesterday I got rained on, so didn't really want to. Yeah, it was just a bit of a mess yesterday's footage, so trying it again today. Let's go a little bit further out, a little bit higher so we don't lose radio control. Oh, there's bulls over here today. Farmer must have moved them around. But anyway, everything's looking good. So yeah, my first impression of these goggles yesterday when I tried it was that the viewing position is kind of different. It feels like you're sitting in a room and you're looking at the video. Whoops, GPS rescue, hold on. You're sitting in a room and you're looking at the video projected onto a wall, the far wall of the room. And at first I thought, oh, this is going to take me quite a while to get used to. But somehow by the end of the first pack, I'd already gotten used to it. So that'll be different for everyone, I presume, but for me it wasn't too bad. But it's definitely not quite as immersive as the Fat Sharks, which the Fat Sharks feel more like you're sitting sitting in a room again, but the wall is much closer. So it takes up more of your field of view, I guess you could say. And it's definitely more immersive than this, but overall not bad. The other thing I discovered yesterday when I was looking at the video footage from yesterday is that unfortunately it's recording at 1280 by 720 at 50 frames per second, which is a huge video file for what is not really a 1280 by 720p video, right? It's just 640 by 480 really for analog video. So I was a little bit disappointed to see that the file sizes are like 6 times what you get when you record from the Fat Shark goggles. So the Fat Shark just records a 640 by 480 video stream, and the file sizes are much smaller, which is quite convenient when you're editing and, you know, just for file storage and stuff. But yeah, anyway, so it's kind of a bummer that the video files are going to be so huge from the HDZero. But it is nice that the audio is already mixed in, so I don't have to deal with 2 SD cards and you know, edit them all into each other later on. So that's pretty nice. Wow, it's almost no wind. It's really nice. I charged up the battery for my plane, so I'm going to fly my plane after this as well. Very pleasant. But I think what I'll do immediately after this flight, I'm going to switch the video camera back to the Cadex Ratel, because this one, you get what you pay for, you know. Okay, I'm going to fly another pack here, mainly because I feel like that FPV cam that we were using just before didn't really do justice to the quality of the recorded file. So now we're back to using the Cadex Ratel, which is a substantially better picture. At least what I'm looking at in my goggles is way better. I assume the recorded view that you're seeing is going to be better as well. And yeah, just fly a little bit like this. Sun is over there, but it's behind the clouds, so we haven't got a whole lot of strong sunlight. But yeah, I've only just started using the Cadex Ratel recently, but it's quite nice, and I've seen that it has a good reputation with everyone else, and I was able to angle it up a little bit more than the other one, so we can get a bit more speed here. Oops, don't want to go too low, of course. And yeah, I was just thinking we're probably behind this hill. So you've got to watch out for that. Yeah, I can see way better with this camera. Let's check the video dropout spot behind this tree. Let's go here again. Yeah, it's alright. Overall, it seems like the picture that I see here in the HDZero goggles is not just because of the Cadex Ratel that it's good. I read somewhere that they're doing something fancy with the analog picture, like de-interlacing it or something like that. Oh, watch out. So there's something going on that's improving the picture somehow. And I also noticed from the recorded file yesterday that the video that it's recording is 50 frames per second, but it's actually, all the frames are actually unique. But I always thought that PAL and NTSC signals were 25 frames per second, so I don't know how every single frame is unique in the video recording. Maybe I've always been looking at things in 50 frames per second, I just didn't realize it. I was just editing this video and I wanted to point out something that I noticed. If I advance this frame by frame here, like with my arrow keys, you'll see that on the right, every time I press the key, a frame changes. But on the left, for the fat sharks, it's only every second time. So not only is the HDZero recording 1280 by 720 instead of 640 by 480, it's also recording twice as many frames, so it's no wonder that the video size is so much larger. And I'll also point out, while we're in the middle of doing this, that the OSD display on the Fat Sharks is a little bit sharper, or a fair bit sharper and brighter than it is over here, and I guess that's something to do with the way this has been de-interlaced or smoothed or something like that. And definitely some of the aliasing that we see here has been, I would say, improved in general over here, but when it comes to this OSD text, that's not really an improvement, because you kind of want this to stay aliased almost and as sharp as you can get it. But anyway, so it's definitely recording 50 frames per second for the HDZero. But picture is quite nice. Quad is flying great. Everything's good. Nice picture. Yeah, this is fun. Hey guys, don't mind me. They don't seem to care, that's good. Hello. Oops, time to land. Alright, now that's enough of quad for today. I think I'll fly my plane a bit. This is the external mic I got to try just as a quick comparison with the built-in mic. I found this on AliExpress for like $1.50 or something. Super cheap. I thought it might as well give something a try and see how it goes. It's got a little bit of wind for preventing foam on there, so it did actually turn out to be slightly better, I think, than the built-in mic. At least it doesn't have the noise of the fan, but it's very bassy and it doesn't catch any other noise other than your voice, which is a good thing, I guess. But a couple of times in the clips coming up, I was trying to fly the quad close so that you could hear it through the mic, but basically you can't hear it. But yeah, that might be a good thing. Unfortunately, I found that it wouldn't go into the AV plug. I mean, it goes in there, but it doesn't work. Not really sure why. It should be the correct kind of plug. It's got 4 bands on it there. The only way I could get this to work was going into the line-in jack there with the one that's shared with the headphones. So that one did fortunately work. So we'll just record a little bit like this, and then we'll switch back over to the built-in mic and see if it's any different. So that's probably enough of this now. 11.3 volts angle mode, 3.76 volts on that thing, and we have 0 satellite, so that's probably enough for that. It seemed like it had actually landed upside down initially, but fortunately none of the antennas were broken, and we're back in business pretty much straight away. But it kind of ruins my test. I was trying to figure out how long we could fly for with these props, right? But I do have one other battery charged up, so I guess we can just pop that one in after this and test it with that one instead. Okay, so I've been using this for about a week now, pretty steadily. We've actually had some decent weather. I've been able to get out most days and give it a try, either on one of these 2 quads or on my plane. So I'm going to list up some pros and cons here, but I will remind you again that this is just for analog. I don't have any HD video systems to try it with, so my only opinions that I can give you are just relative to the Fat Shark goggles and with analog video systems. So the pros, obviously, I haven't really scratched the surface of the I/O options for HDMI and all that stuff, inputs. And of course the HDZero system itself, I'll probably try that eventually at some point. So yeah, this is a pretty big pro, and that's the main reason I bought these goggles. It's really nice to have a built-in mic, especially if you make videos for YouTube all the time, so I really like that. The external microphone is a must, I think. It's just tolerable with the built-in microphone, but that fan noise gets a bit tiresome, doesn't it? And I'm sure if I spend a little bit more money on the external mic, I could get one that's nicer than the one I have shown you in this video. On-off switch is nice. With the Fat Shark goggles, you had to pull the barrel jack plug in and out to turn it off and on, or I suppose you could get a cable that has a switch in it, but it's nice that the goggles have the switch built in. The SD card is a lot easier to get at in the Box Pro than on the Fat Sharks. And the Fat Sharks, you have to very, very carefully use your fingernail to get at the little push plug that's in the middle of the eyepieces in the goggles. It's kind of awkward to get at, and a couple of times I've had that the SD card fly across the room and I'm trying to get it out, which is a little bit annoying. Overall, the analog reception seems better with the HDZero BoxPros, and the breakup, when it does break up, is not so bad, and it doesn't seem to do that rolling that you get with analog typically when you get a bad signal, like the top of the screen goes to the bottom, which can be a little bit unnerving, because at first it sometimes looked like the quad is tipping upside down, but I haven't yet to see that. In all of my footage and flying, I've yet to see it do that rolling effect with the HDZero goggles, so that's kind of nice. Consecutive files have no skip time. I'm pretty sure with the Fat Sharks, I probably should have checked this, but I'm pretty sure that with the Fat Sharks, when it breaks the file to start a new one, you lose a couple of seconds there. And I have confirmed, at least with the HDZeros, that does not happen. You can just seamlessly put the two files together when you're editing, and there'll be no skip time. The OSD elements that it shows you at the top of the screen, they are recorded into the video that goes onto the SD card, which is a little bit of a bummer. And it's also a bit of a bummer that they cover the OSD that you're getting from your flight controller, but fortunately they are configurable, so you can actually turn all those off completely. The whole thing is configurable, so that's really nice. And one of them is a battery voltage display, and there's an alarm as in, beeper. And this is also configurable, which is really nice because it lets you say that you're using lithium ion cells instead of lipos, so that the alarm doesn't go off too early. That's great. And it also shows you, at least when you start up, how much room you have on the SD card, which is great. It didn't have that in the Fat Sharks. And you can also use glasses with this. I haven't tried that, but I tried my reading glasses just to see how it worked, and I was surprised that I could focus. My eyes are very, very, I have very, very good long distance vision. I can see, I have Legolas vision, and I can't see shit up close. And for some reason, I can use these goggles okay, either with or without my reading glasses, which is bizarre. I don't really know how that works. I did notice that with my glasses, I felt slightly nauseous after a while, so I have not been using them with my glasses, and things will be going pretty well like that. But it's really good that you can use the glasses. The reason I say most likely here is because the width of the goggles is they're a little bit smaller. Like I said at the beginning, they're a little bit smaller than I expected when I took them out of the box. So if the frame of your glasses is kind of on the wide side, they might actually not fit inside these goggles too well. Okay, let's look at some of the cons. If the power gets suddenly turned off, it destroys the current file, or basically you lose the current file that it was recording, which is kind of a bummer. The Fat Sharks did not do that. So yeah, this is a bit of a bummer, but it's kind of understandable because it's a much more sophisticated, I think it's basically running Linux. So yeah, it's not the kind of thing you can just suddenly turn off and expect it to keep the file. So I understand, but it's a little bit of a nuisance. And the second one, the power plug is easier to pull out accidentally. This is because it inserts upwards into the bottom of the goggles, whereas with the Fat Shark goggles it inserts into the side. And I've already had this happen once where I was all ready to launch my plane. The plane was sitting on the ground, right? So I kneeled down to pick up the plane, and the cable of the goggles went below my knee. And so when I stood up, my knee caught onto the cable and it just pulled the plug out right before I was about to launch. And then it's even more annoying because the goggles don't just start up very quickly. You have to wait sort of 20 seconds to get back to where you were. So that's a bit of a nuisance. It's not quite as an immersive field of view because it looks like you're looking at a screen that's a little bit further away. And I have completely gotten used to that now. I've probably flown about 20 packs through my quad and my plane with these goggles. And I actually don't notice that anymore, so it's probably not such a big deal. It's not so easy to put the goggles up on your forehead as it is with the Fat Sharks when you're not using them. You get this with all box goggles just because they're bigger and heavier. But I found that if you put the strap to the tightest position, it wasn't too bad. So it's not not terrible. For analog, there's no diversity, so you're only going to be stuck with a one antenna. But it seems to do a good job. Like I say over here, the reception seems better anyway, so haven't noticed that to be a huge problem. The larger files for not much benefit with analog, as I think I explained earlier in the video. It's probably not a big deal. As long as you have a decent sized SD card in there, it's okay. And I say uses more battery probably because I didn't really check this, but I can only assume that it does use more battery. Another reason I say probably is because I didn't notice it. So it can't be much more. It has to be more, but it's not so much more that I really noticed it in this week that I was doing this testing. And just to finish up, I noticed a couple of issues, or what seem to be issues. One is that there's a setting where you can choose whether you want the file format to be an MP4 or TS. I've no idea what this is. I've never seen it before. So I just set it to MP4, and MP4 works better with my editing software. But for some reason, every now and then when you turn the goggles on, it decides it's going to record these TS files, despite the setting being MP4 when you go and look at it. So I'm not really sure why it does that, but it's probably some sort of an issue. And the other thing that I thought was a little bit strange is that even when you select the audio source to be the microphone, either the built-in microphone or the external microphone, when you get a little bit of breakup in the analog signal, you can hear a little bit of a crackling sound. I'll play a little bit of an example of that for you here. So that example there is not a big deal, but I found that one time when I was further away, the noise can be quite extreme. So if you were trying to talk and do some narration for your cool YouTube video in the middle of that, it would completely override your narration, which would be a bit of a bummer. So I have a feeling that shouldn't really happen because you're not supposed to be getting any audio from the analog signal, I would have thought. Anyway, that's where this video is going to end. We'll probably see a little bit more about this in future. I'll have to try it with some kind of HD system, won't I? But anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Let's say hello to this one. Hello there, Mr. Bull. How are you this morning? You okay? What's that in your mouth? Got a mouthful of grass. Okay, see you later.